Okay, karmic loops. What is a karmic loop? This is really important to know if you're going through an ascension, because there's going to be a lot of times, see, you never actually completely stop ascending. You just keep rising higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. But quite often, when you're on an ascending path, like I was saying in my video about fate and destiny, things will get put on your path to tempt your fate, to try and get you off your path, to see how willing and determined you are to keep bettering yourself so that you can fulfill your purpose and achieve your destiny. You have complete control over your destiny. How you get there and what you do once you get there is completely up to you. If you're destined to do readings for people, if you're destined to be a politician, if you're destined to be rich and famous, it's completely up to you how you get there. And it's also up to you what you do once you get there, how you behave, how you act. That sort of thing is completely up to you. Whether you become famous or infamous, whether you become good or bad, good or evil, light or dark, it's completely up to you. But you can't fight your fate. What and who you're meant to be by the time you die is completely predetermined before you're born. But how you get there and what you do with it once you get there is completely up to you. So when you're on an ascending path, things will get put in your path. A lot of people will get put into you, come into your life. A lot of situations will get put in your life in order to see, like the weighing the karmic scales. Are you easily tempted to go off your path, or are you, determined to stay on your path and achieve your goal, achieve your purpose? So the tempters come and they will, put people and situations in your path to try and get you off your path. Now, 99.9% of the people on an ascending path will then be tempted by that fate and go on a descending path. For example, Donald Trump had the opportunity to do good things with his second chance at making a first impression with God by doing right by the American people and helping save the world and bring America into the new world. But because he abused that trust of the American people, he's now on a descending path. So instead of becoming a saviour to America, he is now who is going to be responsible for the downfall of America. Even though he was destined to be president a second time, he chose to take the second chance to do the right thing and flip it. So now he's descending, and instead of taking America into the light, he's taking America to the, he's going to destroy America. Once he is no longer president, America's never going to be the same because he's destroying it from the inside out, right? With the help of people like Elon Musk. So Lucifer and the Antichrist have now taken over, and because of that, because they will announce themselves with the mark of the beast, they have now become exactly in the book of Revelations who God was talking about when he talked about the Tower of Babylon and Sodom and Gomorrah and the demons, being taken to hell and, all that sort of thing, right? So the thing is, with like the New World Order, with the Illuminati, a karmic loop in their situation is formulaic. It means that they're so to the letter of their handbook, nothing changes. When you're in a karmic loop, nothing changes. It's just a repetitive cycle of the same thing repeating itself over and over and over and over and over again. whether it's for you as an individual or for like a cult like the Illuminati or my ex's cult. I mean, they're all connected. It's just routine over and over and over and over again, because they live and die by the handbook of the occult, which, you know, the Illuminati is a cult. I mean, they're not very good at it. Their knowledge and understanding of the occult is so archaic that it's actually embarrassing how little they actually know. But because they rule by force and fear, nobody's been brave enough to challenge them until I came along, because now I'm tearing it all down. I'm pinpointing everything that they're getting wrong. I'm finding the holes, I'm poking the holes in their occult practices, and now people are starting to wake up to the fact that they're in the matrix when it comes to their political leaders and the Illuminati and that. So it's removing their power, because I'm a gatekeeper and you don't have access to the occult without going through me. So if I find you, like with Santaro and all of that, you know, the ones that were all involved in what happened to me, if I find you, if I'm drawn to you and God says, I need you to investigate this for me, if I find any holes in it, then it's up to me to deconstruct it and tear it down, to remove the wall of the matrix for those who are ascending. Because for those who have been chosen to ascend, they come up against those brick walls of the false narrative of the presidents and the psychics and the mediums and the, you know, the celebrities and the whatever, until I remove that wall, and then they open their eyes and they see the truth, and it helps them move past the veil of the matrix so that they can ascend. Because otherwise they're stuck, they're grounded, they're halted from progressing with their ascension, because they're trapped in the quagmire of deception and lies and treachery and tyranny and all that sort of thing. And that's how the Illuminati rule, by fear and force. So with the Illuminati, and they are a perfect example of what a karmic loop is. You know how they'll say, oh, there's a measles outbreak and oh my God, everyone's going to die and blah, blah, blah. And people are like, oh, here we go. Like, we knew they were going to come out with something again. Oh, here they go with the cloud seeding. Oh, here they go. Like, you know, they're so predictable because they have a handbook way of living their life. They don't deviate from the handbook. Now, the thing is with the Illuminati, because they're stuck in a karmic loop of darkness and tyranny and evil, they don't have access to the new world. So anyone in the Illuminati or associated with their cult, like my ex and that, will never ever have access to the new world, because they're stuck in a karmic loop. Everything they do is just repetitive, you know, like Homer's sperm swimming around just banging heads, not going anywhere, not achieving anything. That's a karmic loop. It's when it's just a repetitive cycle of doing the same thing, living the same process, putting in the same force and fear and tyranny over and over and over again. It's predictable. You know they're going to come out with another pandemic that's going to be a lie. You know they're going to come out with, hey, let's do the vaccines and blah, blah, blah. It's the same playbook, but with different actors. It's the same movie over and over and over again, but with different actors playing it every time, like a reboot. Every few decades, every few years, the Illuminati will come out with the same thing, but with a different face, you know, and that's what a karmic loop is. And because of that karmic loop, because they're stuck in that karmic loop, they will never have access to the new world, and they will never have access to having supernatural powers. The Illuminati is smoke and mirrors. What they do is they will get the occult members to write something down, and then 100 years later, 20 years later, whatever years later, because, you know, they hand it down through the generations. It's, you know, father and son, grandson, great-grandson, you know, granddaughter, blah, blah, blah. And it's just all their knowledge is handed down. The playbook is handed down through the descendants. They will predict something, and then through their descendants, they will make it happen. to make it look like it was prophecy, but it's not. It's all an illusion. It's just a magic trick. It's smoke and mirrors. They know exactly what's going to happen in 150 years' time with their grandson called John, because they decided that they were going to have their great, 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 great grandson have a kid called John, where they were going to put John in the position to have the career that was predicted 100 years ago, to make it look like it was like a prophecy, but it's not. It's literally an illusion. It's all fake. It's all smoke and mirrors to make it look like they have power, make it look like they have occult knowledge, make it look like they're supernatural, but it's not. They're just children's party magicians. That's all it is. Whereas like someone like me, who is their biggest threat, I've come along and I'm like, no, that's not right. Even, see, because my Egyptian ancestors got it wrong. And so I've been put here to pay off karmic debt for them for the stuff that they got wrong, that led people to believe that they understood things that they didn't, that they got wrong. Like, for example, you know, the Illuminati think that that my ancestors were aliens because they had those big heads, whereas I know that they bound their heads because my ancestors believed if they had bigger heads, if they made more space for their heads to grow a bigger brain, they'd be smarter. But because the Illuminati are a bit dumb, they thought, oh, it must be aliens with the elongated head and blah, blah, blah. So then everybody else in the world picked up on this idea of, you know, aliens roaming the earth and Egyptians this and blah, 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 and it's wrong. And what it's done is that it's led the course of history down a very dark and tyrannous path, which is where we are now. You know, we're on the brink of the death of the old and the birth of the new. My job is to take those that your gods and ancestors have chosen to be saved, you know, the day of judgment sort of thing, because we're in the end of days. So my job is to take those who have been chosen to be saved out of the fire, and instead of it being destructive fire, it being a fire of purification. It's like a, you know, purification ritual. I am the sun, Queenie Marawa o te rā. Brehena Saithusa, Queen Light of the Sun. I'm the sun. So I put a spotlight on people's paths, and I help burn and purify and regrow the light in them, so that it becomes a light of construction and not a light of destruction. Okay, a fire of birth and not a fire of, you know, cremation. Elevation, not cremation. Because the cremation part is up to God and Satan, right? So what happens is, like, and this happened with my students, and it happened with my husband and my ex-husband and my best friend and all that. Everything was going great. They were, you know, on a path of growth and elevation and ascension, until I started having to apply the Judas test to see, you know, to test their loyalty, because when you go through an ascension, your loyalty is tested. You have to prove to God, you have to prove to your ancestors that you have earned the right to have the position that you're going to have. Because once you reach the pinnacle of your ascension, you are going to be put in a position where you will have influence over people. So as the gatekeeper, as the teacher, it's my job to make sure that whoever gets to those gates has permission to be there. You know, like St. Peter at the gates of heaven. I'm like that for the occult, for, you know, people who want to have access to the occult supernatural world. I'm like St. Peter. You don't come through without my permission. And you have to earn the right to be there. Now, I am going to be working around children who, you know, coming from hard, bad, you know, not very good backgrounds, coming from homes and a life where it's my job to protect them and nurture them and wrap them in the cocoon so that they become butterflies and not moths, like I said in my Fate and Destiny video. They're going to be suicidal. Some of them are going to have, mental illness diagnoses they don't deserve. Some of them, will have been put on medication they don't need to be on. Some of them are going to have dark moments psychologically, and because they've come from abuse and neglect and abandonment, and being misunderstood by society and by families that don't want to deal with them because they don't understand them and all that sort of thing. So, and because we're also going to be rescuing children who were being trafficked, and bred for sacrificing, and that, funded by the foundation for the children that we're helping to become butterflies and not moths, I need to make sure that everybody that works with me and for me for these children are on the same level as me, they're on the same understanding as me, where the children come first, that it's not about you, it's not about, like if I was inviting someone, a famous musician or producer or actor or writer, or someone who was successful in their own right, if I was to bring them on board my foundation, it needs to be with the understanding that what we're doing and what we're making and producing and creating is not about them, it's about the kids. So we all need to be in this together and on the same level. So we conduct the Judas test. I passed mine when my teacher gave me the Judas test. I passed mine within 2 days. And my students hadn't passed theirs in the 2 years that most of them were students. Like, they still were failing over and over and over again. And then, of course, when I administered the, because you add drops of blood, so to speak, it said that when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, knowing that Judas and Peter and Judas and Peter were going to betray him, he sweat. He was so struck by the grief of the betrayal, he sweat and cried blood. So when, as an ascension master, you will feed people drops of blood to see if it turns into a feeding frenzy, like sharks, when a shark smells blood, and piranhas and that, they'll go into a feeding frenzy and, tear whatever's bleeding apart, which is what happened to me. Or, they will see it as a healing process and use the experience to better themselves. Every single person that I administered the Judas test failed. So now they're all on a descending path. When you're in a karmic loop, you will never be allowed to be more than what you are currently. So you will never be allowed to achieve any hopes or dreams or aspirations you might have, because you've sealed your fate in a karmic loop. Because the more bad you do, the more bad you put out, the more karma you accrue, right? The more good you put out, the more dharma you get. So one is a punishment and one is a reward. When you're going through an ascension, you are constantly rewarded for every test that you pass. So every time a temptation is put in your path and you choose the path of righteousness, you choose the light and not the dark, you choose not to take the bait and get involved in the feeding frenzy, because you choose not to listen to the gossip or listen to the rumors or cheat or lie or steal or murder or kill or any of the commandments, blah, blah, blah. If you choose to do that stuff, you then accrue karmic debt, which weighs heavy on your soul. It becomes a burden on your soul and it drags you down. You start descending. And then the only way you can rise is when you release yourself from those burdens and clear your conscience and clear your soul and pay off your karmic debt, and then you're given another chance to ascend. But if you're like me, when things have been put in my path, instead of wallowing and feeling sorry for myself and, oh, woe is me, blah, 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 because my teacher prepared me back in 1998, 99, because she prepared me, she told me what I was, she prepared me to the letter of what I had to do when my test would come. I immediately recognized the signs. I knew that it was going to be fake news. I knew that my students were going to get involved in like collaborating and trying to bring me down and blah, blah, blah. What I didn't know is that my ex-husband would be the one to administer the poison. Okay, he was the Judas that kissed me. He was the betrayal. Okay, but instead of, even when I got locked up and, forced with being strapped down with injections if I didn't take the pills and all of that caused the anaphylaxis and that, I I just I just did it. I didn't argue. I just did as I was told, because I always knew that by the time I came out of the end of it, I was going to get justice. I was going to get the payout, and my boys and I were going to be able to put all the bad people away, put all the bad past behind us, and move forward with this foundation and my future, which is the dream that I just uploaded. That's what all of that's talking about, that I'm now going to be allowed to step into the future of my dreams, the future of my destiny, because I've done everything I was told to do. I did everything I was asked of by my teacher and by my ancestors and by God, by my gods. And so every time something gets put in my path, I know exactly how to deal with it, because I know why it's there and what its purpose is. And because I choose not to play the devil's hand, and I don't tempt the hand of fate. I'm not tempted by the hand of fate. I take exactly what it is on face value, recognizing immediately what it is and just dealing with it and walking through that fire. It burns everything away that isn't destined for me, that isn't productive for me, that isn't constructive to my psychological and my entrepreneurial growth, so to speak. And therefore, slowly but surely, step by step, I've been able to move forward and advance. And as a result, I've written more stuff than I had when they tried to do what they tried to do what they did. My power, exploded exponentially, and now, I'm like a supernatural phenomenon walking on two long legs, right? So even though it's been a long, hard process, the result of which has turned me into something that's completely untouchable now. Nothing they do, nothing the devil can do will tempt me off my path, will sway me from lowering myself to its standards. Karmic loops are put there to see whether you are committed to rising above what was placed in front of you, or whether you still have weaknesses that need to be worked on. And when you're ascending and you haven't learnt your lessons, if you're still picking the wrong relationships, if you're still letting yourself be a mug for everybody who wants to feed off your light, if you're still dealing with addictions, if you're still dealing with debt, if there's still that one area in your life that you're not learning from, where you're not recognizing that this is something that needs to be looked at and dealt with and moved on from, you will just keep repeating the same cycle. You will have an endless cycle of bad relationships that aren't going anywhere. You'll have friendships where they're constantly betraying you and letting you down. It's because you're not learning from the lessons, and because history is always destined to repeat itself on a karmic loop, which is what the Illuminati is. They are constantly repeating on a karmic loop, which is why they're so predictable and so formulaic. Everybody knows their motives and their means now and their strategies, because they've been doing it for so many years, for hundreds of years, over and over and over and over again that they're literally predictable. It's just that the face changes, but the playbook is exactly the same. But the thing is, because they have no faith in God, because their faith, if they claim to be Christians or claim, like Donald Trump, God hates him. He keeps claiming to have all this Christian this and God that, and God hates him. He sells the Bible for £1,000, $1,000, just because it's got his signature in it. To raise money for him, it goes to him, So God has no love for him because God has no love for Lucifer. Lucifer is God's enemy. Lucifer is who God is taking down because Lucifer is the one that is, propagating the destruction of the world. Innocent people are being killed. Children are being killed and, abused and all of that. Vantablack the musical, which is why I'm doing Vantablack the musical. Even if I have to do it just over our radio station, I don't care. But I'm doing the musical to raise awareness for human trafficking because of people like him and Musk and all of that that are involved in all of that. And Zelensky, they're all involved in it. The evidence is there on my ex. So, karmic loops, the same thing. It's the inevitable over and over and over again because they weren't given access. The Mayan calendar, how it didn't see past 2012, was it? That's because they did human sacrifices and stuff. They sacrificed a lot of innocent lives for them to be their high priests and, be their rulers and emperors and all of that. And so they were never allowed to see past a certain time and ultimately had their civilization completely destroyed. And the same thing is about to happen to the Illuminati. The World Health Organization, the United Nations, NATO, WHO, America, and Great Britain is going the same way, unfortunately, because I tried to wake the king up. I tried to save the king. I shouted as loud as I could, but it's his decision, it's his choice. So ultimately what's going to happen is my boys and I are going to get removed from the UK, and then the UK, the Commonwealth will collapse more than likely, is the way it's going to go because of Starmer, which is why I said if I could be Prime Minister and take over, I'd fix Great Britain and get rid of him. I'd actually have him arrested. I'd have most of them arrested. I'd definitely have Tony Blair arrested as well. There'd be a lot of arrests going on. If I could save my king before my boys and I left, I absolutely would, 100%. But I can't make him think for himself. I can only show him the evidence and put it all out there in order to save him. Otherwise, if you don't listen, you go down with the ship, which is what happened with everyone in my life because none of them listened and did the right thing and stood in their truth because they all just saw it as an opportunity to bring the threat down to their lies because, I was calling them out on their lies. I was calling them out on their negative behaviour. I was demanding that they do the work. I was demanding they pay when they weren't paying. So I was doing tens of thousands of hours worth of work for them for free. And then they were thinking that they had the right to abuse me because I was expecting them to have ethics and morals, which is what the Judas test is. It tests your ethics and morals. They all ended up being pedophiles, child abusers, sex offenders, domestic abusers, or they protected and defended the ones that were, because the Illuminati, they're all in on it together. It's the same handbook, it's the same playbook. So of course they're all now gonna face the consequences of that in court because I've done my evidence, I've done my investigation, I've proven 10 times over my innocence and that I was set up just so that they could steal my work, steal my identity, claim my work as their own, try and rise above me. But no one's ever going to rise above me because I'm a gatekeeper. I'm the only gatekeeper in the world. I'm the only gatekeeper bloodline that is ever going to exist ever in the history of everything. You will never be me. You will never have my position. You will never have the relationship with God that I have. You will never have my supernatural powers. You will never master quantum magnetics, because that's in my bloodline. That's my genetic code. I was put here to watch over everybody else ascending. And so people thinking that they could rewrite history or rewrite their fate and rewrite my destiny, it's evidence of their mental illness. It's evidence of their insanity, which is ironically what they tried to say I was. But it was just because, same with psychiatrists and psychologists and doctors, they live and die by the handbook. When you live and die by the script, you're never going to be open to alternatives and other plays and other handbooks. You'll never have access to it, because it's just repetition. It's indoctrinated repetition, the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, where there is no possibility for potential other outcomes, because you're just stuck in that karmic loop. Whereas, because I don't deal with karma, because I am karma, because I know how karma works and I know how the balance of, energy works, because I don't deal with any of that sort of stuff in my personal life and in my, psychological makeup, I'm not affected by it. Therefore, my mind just keeps expanding. And I grow and expand with the universe, because I am one with the universe, because I'm able to think the same way the universe does, because, I'm like inside the quarks and gluons of the atoms. I'm a part of the process of what creates evolution. But because they're not, they're basically sinking further into black holes, where they will start devolving and descending, and everything's getting torn down and melted away, which is what's happening in America at the moment. I can only save the people that are willing to be saved. Otherwise, they have to go down with the fire of destruction, because ignorance is willful. You can choose to listen to the information. You can choose to do your investigation. You can choose to stand up and say enough is enough. But if you don't, it's your own fault. You've got no one to blame but yourself. And I'm not here to save those people. I'm here to save the ones that want to get out of it. I'm here to save the ones who want to better themselves, who know that there's something better for them out there, who want to be a part of the new. That's who I'm here to save. I'm here to help people transition from the old to the new. And it's I'm an ascension master. So there's no one better that's going to be able to tell you how to fix yourself and fix the world around you than me, because I'm a karmic judge, and I'm an ascended master, and I'm a gatekeeper and a high priestess and a indigenous reverend, and a medicine woman. Quantum magnetics is like a Swiss Army knife of the occult supernatural. I'm a physicist. I'm an occult scientist. I develop supernatural foods. I have products in that help. I'm a biorhythmic engineer. I'm all of it. I'm everything that the person on an ascending path needs in order to make a better life for themselves, by helping them recognize what needs to be fixed in their own lives, so that they can break away from that karmic loop and move forward into the expansive unknown of what it is they're yet to create, which is exciting. So I'm sitting here literally in a singlet and a vest and underwear, and I can hear people milling about outside. I'm so glad I just closed my curtains and windows, because I have no privacy here. I have to keep everything closed, because everyone walks past my window. I have to shower at like 4 o'clock in the morning, because I have no privacy. So I have to keep everything closed and do everything in the dark, because I'm always walking around in just like t-shirt and underwear, or at the moment vest and underwear. So yeah, because I don't, I'm Polynesian, so even in the UK and the snow and that, I'm running around like this because it's just my nature. But I can hear people outside, and I just hope I'm not talking too loud. So anyway, so that's a karmic loop, and my boys and I are breaking away from that, and and because what I'd like to do, obviously, when we go around the UK doing these shows and investigations and that, I want to do my Eye in the Sky shows where, like when we were going to the National Trust places where I go around seeing what I can see. But then I'd also like to do my occult private eye shows as well, where we go to places like, oh gosh, what's it called? Oh God, I talk about it all the time. The Dog Suicide Bridge in Scotland, Overton Bridge, and do investigations there where I would then explain the phenomenon, explain why it's happening, and then use my rehua spray and my tane clay to cleanse the area so that activity stops. So yeah, I'll be able to show you on camera everything for your own eyes to see and explain it in a way where you'll be able to understand exactly what it is I'm talking about, because what I need to do is I am here to bridge the gap between life and death. I'm here to show you how to do it yourself so that you have the connection with your ancestors and all of that yourself, so that you don't need the psychics and the mediums and the frauds and the false prophets like my ex-students and, people like Donald Trump and stuff. Have the relationship with God and your ancestors yourself, which is what God is wanting in the book of Revelations, right? So when I teach people the difference between the supernatural and the paranormal, it will eventually get rid of the paranormal, and paranormal activity will cease to exist, because I've raised their vibrations and woken them up to realize that the paranormal is the direct result of the imbalance of a psychological mind, whether it's from the person experiencing it or people who were there before or events that happened in the past. That energy sticks to Papatūānuku. It sticks to Mother Earth. And I'm here to clear the path and free it up and raise everyone's vibration so that it raises the vibration of Papatūānuku, and then she can heal, because she puts out so much for us to be able to use to heal ourselves that has been completely overshadowed by the paranormal activity, by the pharmaceutical industry, by the people, trying to push these, poisonous vaccines and the cloud seeding and the lies and, the betrayal and all of that. It all sticks. The war, the slaughtering of innocents, the bloodshed, the fear, it all sticks to my grandmother, Papatūānuku. So my rehua spray and my tane clay will come along and heal her, and in return she will heal the people who walk upon her. And the biggest way for me to do that is to teach people the difference between the supernatural and the paranormal. The paranormal is psychological. The supernatural is faith. It's science and faith. It's physics and faith. Whereas the paranormal is psychological. It's all in your head. And yeah, so I'm the great educator. I'm the gatekeeper. Like it's my job to explain it all, to clear the path, to burn it all down so that you can see clearly exactly what it is your gods and ancestors need you to know and understand about you and yourself and your future and where you're going, because we're all here to pay off ancestral karmic debt as well. Every person alive today is here to exist, to pay off all the wrongs of our ancestors. Those of us on an ascending path, I mean. Because without it, we don't have access to the supernatural, because in order to have access to the supernatural, you need to have a clean slate. You need to be pure of heart, mind, body, and spirit. You need to be purified. So, like I said, creative fire or destructive fire, it's your choice. So I've paid off my karmic debt. I've done everything that I needed to do, and that dream that I just posted was letting me know that I've passed the last test, and I will always be tested. There are always going to be people who are going to think, knock her down a peg or two. I'm just going to take what she's done. I'm just going to have her. I'm going to have him. I'm going to stop her. I'm going to, make sure she doesn't do this, and I'm going to take him, blah blah blah. But the thing is, if someone can come along and take your man, he was never your man in the first place. So they've done you a favour. So don't feel sad about that, because that's what happened with my husband when he got tempted by the child abuser and the pedophile, and my best friend got tempted by the pedophile. And my ex-husband, like they were obviously never mine to have. If they can be tempted so easily, they were never meant for you. So thank the karmic for removing the obstacle, because it means that you were headed down a path with someone who was never intended for you. Because when you're on an ascending path, you're supposed to be paired with people who are of the same vibration. And I'm a gatekeeper, so my partner, the one who has been destined for me since like cave paintings. I mean, he's in the Bible as well. God knows who he is. Horus knows who he is. Sobek knows who he is. I don't know who he is. I'm still waiting to meet him. He's somebody who is the same as me. He's my opposite and my equal in every aspect, because of the fact that his role, his purpose in life is to make sure that what's just happened to me over the last 7-8 years will never ever happen to me again. Because between him and my sons, they won't let anyone get to me without going through them first. No man on this planet is allowed to come near my personal bubble without going through my sons first. And when the man who comes along who gets my son's approval, where the two of them are in agreement that, yep, you can ask my mum out on a date, yep, you can marry her, yes, you can hold her hand, yes, you can kiss her, that sort of thing. When it's decided that, he's the one for me and he's my protector, the one from the prophecy, then he takes over. And then he's the one that is in control of who comes near me. My boys have access to my social media. They have access to my phone. They know my passwords and PIN numbers and all of that, so that they can monitor anyone and everything that comes near me. And if they don't like anything that's out there, they make me shut it down, or they make me walk away. They'll say, I don't like him. I don't want you near him. What the hell's going on? Take that photo down, whatever. And I listen, because they're the men of my house. They are my protectors currently. They keep my virtues intact for when I meet my husband. So then when I meet my husband, it's going to be his role then to make sure that, in business and finance and, like when I'm doing business with people, when I'm doing financial transactions with people, when it comes to investing, making sure that nobody comes near me, our home, my business, my empire, or my physical person without going through him. He's he's the embodiment of Buffalo Totem, which is, spiritual protection. He speaks my language. When I'm up out there in the frequencies, he knows what I'm saying. He can interpret my moods and my emotions and my predictions and all of that in a way that he knows exactly where to position himself, so that if anyone tried to take advantage of me, either financially, politically, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, physically, whatever, he's on it long before I even need to have to deal with it. Because at the moment I have to deal with it all myself. whereas he's the one that is going to remove the burden of not needing to worry so much about being hyper vigilant about my safety in that, because obviously until my exes are arrested and charged and, you know, held accountable, until they're removed from my boys in my life, I'm the one that has to be on top of and aware of any threats to our security, whether it's emotionally or, you know, physically or whatever, because they still haven't been brought to justice yet, but they will, because I know it's coming. I know what's coming. I've always known what's coming because my teacher prepared me for it in 1998, 1999. So when it all happened, none of it surprised me. It wasn't a shock to me, other than the fact that I thought I had my best friends back, and I thought the boy's dad had our back, because the whole plan was I was supposed to, when my husband left to be with the pedophile and child abuser, God, my life story, we were still going to go to America because my plan had never changed, but my ex had said to me, can you stay here and I'll look after you financially, and, you know, like if you look after the boys and cook and clean and blah blah blah, then when you're ready to go, once you've built your career up and that, let me retire and go off on, like, let me get a motorbike, let me go off and travel and do my art and all of that, and then you and the boys can go off and do your thing, and, you know, we'll meet in the middle for Christmases and birthdays and blah blah blah. So that was the deal, but I didn't know that this whole time he was planning on feeding me cocaine and, you know, opioids, and stealing my books and my ideas and my products and all that sort of thing. And then when I did find out, obviously, when he put the cocaine in my pizza and I whistle blew, that's when he called the cops to try and stop me from getting him caught out for attempted murder. It's been 2 years. I'm still waiting for the cops to do their investigation and test that weed. And, you know, because he's under investigation for my historical sexual assault and domestic abuse as well. But because he's lied so much to the cops, because he's tried to do everything possible, getting, you know, governments involved and doctors and, you know, family members and all of that, trying to stop me from getting him caught out, it slowed me down, but it hasn't stopped me. And that's the thing. He's tried to throw up all this karmic stuff to get me to bend to his will so that he could get away with committing really disgusting acts against his own family, the mother of his children and his boys. So it doesn't matter who he's put in my path. It doesn't matter what they've tried to put in my path, what they've, you know, with the hacking of my phone, the controlling of my uploads and downloads and, you know, my views and all of that. Elon Musk, he's, you know, he's played a big role in making sure that none of my stuff gets out there, but it hasn't stopped me, because everybody else would just give up and walk away. But because I always knew, because my teacher prepared me for what was going to happen, I always knew it was coming, so I was prepared. So I just keep my head down. I just focus on what I have to do. Well, I keep my head up, actually, and I've never once let them slow me down. It hasn't broken my stride once, not once. My faith hasn't faltered. My faith in my teacher hasn't faltered. I've done everything I was told to do because I'm a good girl. I obey the laws of karma, you know, the laws of justice, martial law, marital law, whatever you want to call it, maritime law. I've done everything I was told to do without question. It's never once broken my stride, because I know how this ends, because my teacher, and then eventually the Bible, once I read it and listened, told me exactly what was coming. So now I'm in the new, while they're all stuck in the old, and their old is now getting burnt down because I did as I was told. So my reward for which is that I get dharma and they get karma, and their karma has been dealt with by my brothers, like, you know, Michael and Seraphael and all that, but also God and Satan and Odin and Thor and whoever their ancestral gods are. because they're all on my side. They're now going after the ones who tried to keep me stuck in a karmic loop, but none of them have progressed. It's just constant repeating cycles, same old, same old. Whereas my boys and I just keep taking one step, one step, one step, one step, one step. It's been a long, agonising, slow process, but it's because I've been up against so many people trying to sway me off my path, swathes of them, but it hasn't slowed me down at all. I'm not stuck in their mud. I'm not in there. See, I might have been stuck in mud, but I was getting myself out of it, whereas they're stuck in quicksand. And they can't get out of it now. And now what's going to happen is God and Odin and Thor and all of that are coming down, have come down to get rid of them, to clear the path, so that I can make room for everybody else that has to follow me, like Moses, through the desert. So that's what a karmic loop is. So if you are on an ascending path and you're going through a repetitious stream of never-ending, constant, over and over and over again, and you can't understand why, it doesn't matter how hard you try, you keep falling back or, taking 2 steps back, now you know why. Find the lesson. There's always going to be a common thread. If it's bad relationships, if it's bad financial decisions, if it's constantly losing your job, there's always a reason why. You have to be honest enough with yourself to admit that it might possibly be you, because you're being willfully ignorant, because you're being lazy, because you're refusing to look at what you need to look at. Otherwise, it's because you're choosing the wrong people, or you're choosing the wrong mindset. You're choosing to stay in that repetitive cycle because you're not willing to admit and look at what you're needing to look at, in which case it's your own fault and you've got no one to blame but yourself. And you have to be brutally honest with yourself. You can't ascend on a lie. Otherwise it bears heavy on your soul and then it weighs you down. And the further you descend from your conscience, the darker you become. And then you end up on the dark side and not the light side of karma. So, which is, Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Keir Starmer and all that. And I'm praying and praying and praying I can save my king. But that's his choice. I can only do so much. Willful ignorance, refusing to see what needs to be looked at, is mostly the reason why people get stuck in a karmic loop when they're on an ascending path. But the Illuminati, it's just because they're trapped, they've been put in like a cage. They're caged, they've caged their ancestors in. They will never ever progress from where they are now, because it's like God has made them walk into the trap so that he can set fire to it. He's gathered them all around so that he can set fire to them, which is, the sulfuric lakes of fire in hell, Book of Revelation. So anyway, so that's karmic loop. I'm going to have another coffee and I'm just in, should I put pants on? But I'm not going to open my kitchen window, because my kitchen curtain, because then everybody sees. Everybody in the street sees. So yeah, okay, so enjoy it, and I shall speak to you later. Remember, hold your head up high. Don't let anyone tell you that you're someone that you're not. Stand in your truth and own your power. You are your own master of your destiny and no one else. Okay, so hold your head up high. Remember, you are loved. I'll speak to you later. Ka kite anō. Mwah.